Hi. I heard an interesting little comment about somebody that had a printer similar to this one. It's a printer fax copier. What this one's doing is it actually runs for a little bit and then it reboots itself and then it freezes. What I was told, or from reading on the online, is that it was the formatter board. New formatter board was several $100s. Read a thing online that said you could actually bake it in the oven at 350 degrees for 8 minutes, and then that would fix it. I saw one where a guy did it on YouTube for a printer, and so I thought I would give it a shot myself, and we'll see how it works. So I was going to post this just so everybody would know. I'm not making this up, and we'll see what actually happens. So now the first step is to get the formatter board out. So this is the left side of the printer, and the formatter board is supposed to be behind this whole section right here. So from what I can tell is you put a screwdriver in here and then down in here, and you pry this out and it slides off. So I'm going to do that, and then I'll come back and let you know if that's actually how it is or not. Okay, what I did is I ended up turning the printer over on its side. Maybe you're not supposed to do that, but I did. And right from over here in the back, top in the back, you pry a little bit. It takes a little bit of work, but it actually does come off pretty easy. Next step is there's 6 screws. One back here. You take those out, but before we do that, we're going to go ahead and take these ribbon cables off. Looks like there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Looks like there's about 11 of those. That actually is a lot. Anyway, so I'm going to take those off, and then I'll let you know after I take the board out. Okay, I've unplugged the cables and I've taken the wires off. There's this one cable right here. Right here. I don't like the way that cable looks, so what I'm going to do is pull the board out a little bit, and then I'll try to unplug that cable, because it's kind of an odd. It doesn't look like there's wires up inside this one piece. I don't know if it pops up or slides out. So I'm going to try to pull the board out and get more of a better look underneath. I'll let you know how that actually comes out in just a little bit. Okay, I'm back. So the board is out. I'm done. That cable was just a black one that just kind of plugged in, but if you look at the top of it, I'll see how close I can get. If you look at the top of that, the way the wires go in kind of makes it look a little odd. So it made me think that it was going to slide out, or the wires were going to come out. Just kind of pulled on it, and I used a screwdriver with a very small flat end on it to help kind of pry on the ends. That's what I did with all the cables, except for the little ribbon cables. Those just slide out. But these other cables like this one, I just took those with a little small piece underneath and kind of pry those up while I'm pulling. Made it a whole lot easier. The ones down here on the bottom, these two little ones like that, which were these little ends, like that. Those were a little bit harder to get out. Not real hard, just kind of pry on them a little bit while you're pulling, and it came out. So now I'm going to go set the oven. It says in the instructions to bake it, well, one said this side up, but I think it was really meant this side because the solder needs to sit down in there. This way the solder would fall out. So I believe it's going to go in like this. There's nothing to remove that I can see as far as chips or anything like that. So I'm going to set it for 350, bake it for 8 minutes like it said, put it in a pan, maybe put something underneath it, maybe like a cloth or something, just so it's not sitting on metal. And I'm going to bake it 350 for 8 minutes, and we're supposed to let it cool for 20, and then we'll put it back in. We'll see if that works. Okay, so we got the board out. What I did is I ended up putting it in this metal pan, and I put tissue paper, just kind of Christmas tissue paper underneath it, because that's supposed to be flame retardant. I used to use it in rocket modeling when we built rockets. So I'm thinking that's going to work. If not, you'll see this thing go up in flames, and I'll post that and show you my epic fail on YouTube. So I'm going to go ahead and set my timer over here. So timer, 8 minutes. And so my oven is set at 350. That's Fahrenheit, by the way, just in case you didn't know. Now I'm going to take this and I'm going to stick it down inside the oven. That should work. Close that. Hit the timer button. We're counting down, and I'll come back on whenever we get it out. Okay, it's been 8 minutes. I'll reach in here and get this thing out. So we set it up here. They say to let it cool. I'm trying to get this thing off my hand, so sorry about the camera jitter. I want to turn on this light also. So the tissue paper did great. There's this little cover, protective little thingy right here. That kind of melted in there a little bit. Kind of expected it. So we're going to let it set for 20 minutes, and we'll put it all back together, and we'll see what happens. So they say to set it down and not touch it. Now, I'll say real quick, one of the other videos showed cooking it at 400 degrees for 5 minutes. I thought about that one, but I chose to do the 350 at 8 minutes instead, because I thought 400 just seemed a little bit hot, and I was really afraid of warping the board. You know what? I note as I'm talking, the battery is kind of lifted a little bit, so I'm going to check that before I put it back in, and we want to make sure that's going to be okay. So anyway, we'll see how that works. Anyway, I chose to go with the 350 at 8 minutes instead of the 400 at 5 minutes. So anyway, we'll get back with you just before we put it back in. Okay, it's done. So I've taken it off. It's been a little over 20 minutes actually. The battery, from looking at it, I think that's kind of the way it was whenever it was by the factory, so nothing else looks wrong with it. I inspected everything. There's none of the red. What is that? Little tissue paper? None of the red tissue paper got off on it. So I'm going to reassemble the same way that I disassembled, and I'll show you a picture just before I put the cover back on. So we'll be back in just a minute. Okay, everything is back together. It actually went together really smooth. This cable right here, you might want to consider putting this one back together, sliding it again, before you put the seat the board back in. What I had happen was, because this speaker's in the way, it was kind of hard to get in there to get enough direct motion to get it to slide back in the way it should. That's the only thing that I found. If I'm doing it over again, I probably would have put that cable in first. Of course, you can't do it with any of these other. That's kind of a little difficult, but not too bad. Everything else just slid right in. No problems at all. So everything's together. Everything's in. So I'm going to put the side over here back together. In fact, I'm going to try to show you something. So this is kind of how I want to back up as much as I can, holding the camera too. This goes on just pretty much just like that, and this pushes down and snaps in. So I'm going to go ahead and put it together, and then we'll fire it up and see how it works. Okay, last step. I've got it over here on the floor just so I can get a power cord to it. Here's the print. One thing I did not say I did at the beginning that I would recommend you do, in case you just don't know. I opened it up here, took the toner cartridge out, took the paper tray out, because I didn't want, as I was moving it around, especially whenever I flipped it up on its side, I didn't want that toner possibly leaking out and getting all over the printer. So I took everything I could take out, which is mainly just the toner and the paper tray. I pulled all that out first before I did anything. So I didn't say that at the beginning, but that's what I would recommend. Of course, as kind of goes without saying, should say at least, don't do it with the power cord plugged in. That's a bad idea. So of course it was over on the table. Power cord wasn't plugged in. So now I'm going to reach over here and we'll turn on the printer. And it's cycling. It's booting. Now, I'm going to mention again what happened with this printer before is it would run for a while. You know, if I just let it sit idle, it'd go for about a day, and then it would reboot itself, and it would get hung during this boot process that we're seeing now. It would just stick, just like that. It wouldn't move forward. Probably about 3 of these little arrows before it would stick. Then you'd have to power it off, wait a few minutes, power it back on. Sometimes you'd have to do it a couple of times to get it to come on. So it seemed like the more you printed on it, it would do more. It would do it more often. So I'm going to let it sit for just a little bit like this for a day. So before I post the video, I'll do one last posting letting you know if this is it. So I'm going to let you know if it really fixed it or not. I want to try to run some print off on it and see if I can kind of simulate some load on it. So thanks for watching, and I will actually do one more post before we post it to YouTube. Thanks. Okay, final post. Here's what happened. After I baked the formatter board, so I've taken the cover back off because I had some problems with it, I started getting this message. Scanner error 5, turn off and back on. Sometimes it would come up and say scanner error 8. What that means is that's tied to the scanner. So I was saying the scanner assembly, that's actually tied to the formatter board as well. So I didn't have this problem before I baked it, but I have the problem now. From searching through the web, most people are saying that the answer is to replace the formatter or the scanner assembly. I doubt the scanner assembly's broke because it wasn't broke before. The other fix was to replace the formatter board. So I'm going to guess that's what it was. So I created a problem by baking the board. I'm not sure that's going to happen to everybody. Maybe that's just what happened to me in my case. So I just wanted to let everybody know that's maybe the risk that you run by doing this. So as it sits now, the printer's broke. So either I have to put a new board in it, or you know what, I may try to bake it again. And if I bake it again and it works, I'll post an update to this. If not, I'm just going to end up throwing it all away or just selling parts out of it. Thanks for listening.